On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Ryan Kruser to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. For many years, Kruser struggled with disrupting or annoying thoughts. It took a diagnosis of OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, for Kruser to get the help he needed to start the recovery process. This will be another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Here we go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up? Wherever you are or whatever you are doing, I hope you are enjoying the day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of Madison, Wisconsin, our great capital city. You can follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter for a wild ride at tdecora8791, as well as hitting me up on Facebook at Tim Decora. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to tell their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us today wherever you happen to be. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will be released on Monday and Thursday morning, featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, divorce, success despite challenges, etc., etc., etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Episode and guest intro today. We're going to start with some data, a little bit of, maybe not necessarily facts, but just a Google search of OCD, that's Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. The prevalence of OCD in children and adolescents is between 1% and 3%, so not many people. The mean age of onset is between 7.5 and 12.5 years old. More boys tend to have or develop OCD than girls do at about a 3-to-2 ratio. Today, we welcome Ryan Kruser to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. I've known Ryan since he was in 4th grade, which he reminded me of, and had the opportunity to coach him in both youth football, youth basketball, youth and high school football. Ryan was an excellent student, great guy, and a phenomenal athlete. A 2-sport star in high school. He was part of 2 state titles while playing football and a couple of conference championship basketball teams. After high school, Ryan would join the University of Wisconsin lacrosse men's basketball team, Division II college team, where he would have an outstanding 4-year career. His love of football would land him on the UW lacrosse football team for the last 2 years of his eligibility. After his playing days were over, he would finish his bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in at-risk child and youth care. He would attend grad school at UW La Crosse, so he stayed there, and got his master's degree in school psychology. After finishing his schooling, he would land his first job at Toki Middle School in the Madison Metropolitan School District as a school psychologist. He currently works in the same position at Madison East High School. This year, he joined the East football program, East varsity football coaching staff. Mr. Kruser, welcome to the show. What is up?
TD, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I was going to tell you before, but I forgot to share this. Those of you that, if you're watching, you can see him. If you're listening, you can't see him. He's going with the Duck Dynasty look now. He's got the long beard and the hat. Probably apropos for the weather lately.
Yeah, the weather's been cold, so got to keep the face warm here.
Keep the face warm. Yeah. So this is a time where we get to share a little banter, where we kind of get, before we get into the meat and potatoes. So I got my Jordan Love jersey on. I should have reminded you to wear a Packer because today the recording of the show happens to be the day that the Packers hopefully have beaten the Seattle Seahawks. So yeah, I mean, I'm assuming you're a Packer fan.
Absolutely. I would have worn a jersey, except I have an Aaron Rodgers jersey, so I thought probably would not be super fitting here. So
well, I'm glad you're one of the people.
Still gotta get a jersey.
I'm glad you're not one of the people that burned their jersey, but I think our Aaron Rodgers stuff is buried someplace. We haven't burned it yet, but when he comes back, we'll pull it back out. UW lacrosse, men's hoops. Have you had a chance to follow those guys?
I have, yeah. I'll check in every once in a while, on the scores each week, and I still try to get up there we have alumni games and see some of the old teammates, and we'll follow the team throughout the year. And for a while there, I had a good friend that was an assistant coach up there, Kenny Finko, if you know.
Oh, yep.
Finko,
Kenny.
yeah.
Arrowhead, Kenny Finko.
Arrowhead, yeah. He's a ripping head basketball coach now. But,
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. He's really enjoying that. But, yeah, I followed a little bit more closely when he was an assistant coach up there, and when Kent Dernbach was there with him.
Yep.
But I still follow from afar, definitely.
Yeah, good.
So
maybe one of these guys can, one of these old coaches of yours can get you on as the team psychologist.
Yeah, might have to. Reach out the sports psych side of things.
Sports psych, that's big stuff.
Yep.
So I talked about a mouthful of stuff. But probably the thing that I'm most proud of is obviously the basketball stuff in your career at UW Lacrosse. But I was pretty proud that I found out somewhere along the line that you were going to be a school psychologist, and it made sense because you got kind of thinking about your demeanor and personality. I'm like, he's pretty calm and chill. I think he'd be pretty good. What was the lure with school psychologist?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, one of the big things is since I can remember, I've always had, a deep love for trying to help other people. And growing up and throughout high school, and when I was younger, I really enjoyed mentoring, younger students, and just trying to be there for people and, supporting in general. And I took a course in high school, actually. It was an AP Psych course, and that was kind of when I first found that love for...
Was that Mr. Jennerton?
It was. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. Is he still teaching?
He's still there.
Is he still?
So hopefully he's
shout out Jennerton, yeah.
Shout out to Mr. Jennerton.
Yeah, so I took that and, fell in love with psych, and I do have a family member, a cousin, actually through one of our courses where we do job shadowing, was able to job shadow and kind of found out about school psych that way, and realize that it's a great way to work with students, and from a mental health aspect, and being in the schools is something that I have enjoyed, and just helping to support, and I thought it'd be a great way to give back and to help people.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say the same thing I did when they asked me that. Why did you become a Phi Ed teacher? Dude, summer's off.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's after you get into it, and you're getting a lot more out of just helping kids and helping them through things that maybe you struggled with, and also so that you went beyond the classroom this year. You decided to jump in and help the varsity football team out. How was that?
Yeah, it was great, and I've been away, I guess, from sports since I stopped playing, in college, and I've played pickup, every now and then, but just being back around sports has been wonderful, and to being a part of, Madison East football team and the program, and they got a new coaching staff coming in this year, and being part of that, and getting to know, the guys and the students that I support at school, and seeing them in a different light has been really fun too, and sharing the knowledge that I have from my time when I played the game, and it's been great. That's something that it's refueled, that competitive passion that has been, I guess a little bit absent in my life since I've stopped playing sports. So it's been great. Super thankful for that opportunity, and continuing to do that going forward here.
Sponsor, Buck and Honey's our sponsor. Buck and Honey's restaurants have been impacting the communities of Sun Prairie, Monona, Monarchy, and Mount Horeb, kind of like you're doing with impacting Madison East High School with their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere. That's what keeps people coming back with 4 locations in Dane County. One is close by. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
Yes. Both the Wanakee and I think it's the Monona location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
great spot.
Do you have a favorite?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't. It's been a little bit since I've been there, from being honest.
So segment 1, you decided to come on, and you wanted to talk about OCD. Stands for Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. And as we talked kind of pre meat and potatoes here. When it comes to recovery or getting better from something, and then you got to tell your story, it's usually what is it like? What was it like before? What happened? And then in segment 2, we'll talk about kind of what is it like now. So we're going to start out with going backwards a little bit. You and I have known each other for a long time, but some of our listeners may not know much about Ryan Kruser. So what was your life like growing up pre-OCD, family life? I know you have two amazing parents, Deb and Randy, and an amazing brother Nathan and sister-in-law. Tell the listeners a little bit about family life growing up in the Kruser house.
Yeah, I so thankful for my parents and brother and extended family obviously too, and I've had the privilege of being provided so many wonderful opportunities, and acknowledging my parents have been extremely supportive of me and really helping to mold me into the person I am today, and my brother too, and I just really appreciate what they mean to me, and the support that they provide. To this day, I can still see them pretty regularly, and just saw them yesterday actually for my niece's first birthday. So yeah, it's been really great, and growing up, always there for me, feeling that love and support, and I'm just super thankful for them.
Yeah, they're, like I said, they're just two amazing people, and just watching and how the work that they've done with you and your brother, and how you guys have all come out and done really well, and likewise that support. And then for I guess Sarah and I, my wife and I, we really enjoyed we still enjoy their friendship. We don't get to see them as much as we used to back in the day, where it was like every weekend, traveling to this and that and whatever. But yeah, it was kind of cool. So high school memories, like to make people laugh on here, make people cry. We might get a few laughs out of this, or you actually might make some of us cry here. So what was your favorite high school memory?
I mean, winning a state titles probably has to be up there, I would say. I know my senior year of football, we lost in the state title, but I think as I've gotten older, I would say, it sounds kind of cliche, but that the journey, going through all the practices is the stuff that you remember most. So I wouldn't say it's like one specific memory. Obviously winning state title junior year is up there, but I think just reflecting on all those little things like in the locker room and that coming together, that culmination of things to create that experience is something that really sticks with me. So it's hard for me to pinpoint like one. Like I said, state title is great, and the thing I think about most is those relationships with coaches, players as well too. That time together that you spend and coming together. So sometimes I think we get wrapped up in hoisting the trophy and cutting down the nets or whatever it happens to be, but it's all those little car rides to practices and going out the same door and or the weight room stuff and the speed and agility. Those always kind of, that's the journey, and that's what's cool about it. How about college? Oh, it's same thing. I think it was junior year. Yeah, junior year of college, we were able to take the WEAC championship. Yeah, and a good friend of ours was the WEAC Player of the Year. Remember? Yeah, Staggy. Jared Staggy. Yeah. Shout out Jared. He was phenomenal for that team and his leadership, and but yeah, I think it was. I'm trying to remember. I think it was first time in 50.
Oh, no kidding! I did not know that.
You'll have to fact check me on that, but it was the first time that UWL had won the WEAC in a long time.
Yeah, if somebody's out there listening from UW La Crosse right now, can you leave some comments in there? Fact check us. So, your wife, Lindsay Bucky.
Yep.
How'd you two meet? Because you guys have been married, how many years now?
It'll be 2 in February here. 2 in February. So, yeah.
How'd you meet her?
We met in graduate school, actually, up at UW La Crosse. She's a year ahead of me in our program, and got to know her, and we hit it off, and we were out actually downtown, and there's a specific night that we were, Earl's Saloon was the bar that
Earl's Saloon.
Yeah, that's.
Okay, we're gonna get
for
to
those
that.
that know me. We have a dog named Earl, so that's where that comes from. But it's Lindsay's
She's from up north too, right?
Yeah, she's from Wausau, yeah, or Wausau area, Medford, yeah, specifically. So.
Okay, well, she must be a special person because be able to land Ryan Kruser takes a lot. So I think this story about Earl is going to be a touching one. We might have some tears. You and I might not have tears, but people listening in the car. So grab some Kleenex. So Earl is named after the bar you and Lindsay kind of went out or met at.
Yeah.
Tell us about your dog, Earl.
Lindsay and I had been talking about getting a dog for a little bit. She was more so pushing it than me, and she'd show me a dog and be like, nah, not yet. And I have a coworker that I used to work with at Toki Middle School when I was there. Mm-hmm. She's really well connected to a lot of the rescues in the area, and we ended up getting connected to Earl through her. And yeah, it was super cool. I mean, we got to know a little bit more of the background of Earl before we got him, and he was a stray down south and basically running free, and he was with a pack of dogs, and the couple, he actually ran up onto a property and he basically wouldn't leave. Mm-hmm. So the couple, and I have their phone number, we actually still stay in touch, he didn't leave, so I ended up feeding him. He was very obviously hungry and hadn't eaten in a while. And then so they kind of basically took him in and fell in love with him, and unfortunately, just due to having other dogs down there, they couldn't keep him, and they got connected to an agency and a rescue agency down there, and that's how we got connected to him. But yeah, he's been through a lot. I know, just from what we've shared and talked with his rescue family down there, that it's been so it's super thankful for him. He's a wonderful dog, and lucky to. From a mental health standpoint, he's been wonderful for Lindsay and I.
That's what I was going to talk about, because at the high school we have these therapy dogs that come in, and dogs I think just know how to work us and to get what they want, but then they're also very thankful, and they're called man's best friend for a reason. They somehow can figure it out.
Yeah.
So you and I were talking a fall or two ago about your struggles with OCD, and I was totally unaware. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy to know that you started to explore that and you're doing something about it. So in your bio, you mentioned some symptoms that you experienced at an early age. Tell us about some of those things that you can remember.
Yeah, I mean, part of the work I'm doing now is kind of trying to unpack and reflect on some of those earlier experiences with experiencing, definitely anxiety, and, part of anxiety is there's obsessive compulsive disorder. It is an anxiety disorder. I can remember in elementary school, I have, an intense fear of getting the stomach flu and throwing up, and, being in a school environment, there's a lot of kids that get sick, and
you're going to get sick.
And being exposed to that, I would start getting these really intrusive thoughts of, I'm exposed to that, I'm going to get sick, and my thought patterns would just cycle. Like I couldn't stop thinking about that. And with that is, attaching, a key component of OCD is you attach meaning to thoughts. I mean, a lot of people have intrusive thoughts, but they don't. The key characteristic of OCD is you're attaching meaning to that. So I would attach, those thoughts. Well, I'm going to get sick now. I'm going to get sick. So in order to reduce the anxiety as a result of those thoughts, I would compulsively wash my hands.
Yep, I remember that.
And yeah, it got to the point, I don't know if I think we talked the other week. I mean, it got to the point where, I would not touch food unless I wash my hands. Like I would not eat. I wouldn't eat lunch unless I wash my hands before, because of that intrusive thought. And, I managed, was able to, I was able to wash my hands, so it didn't really affect me that much. But I washed my hands to the point of where my hands would be so dry in the wintertime, I'd be playing basketball and the webs in my fingers would crack, it'd be bleeding. And I actually had to wear these. You can buy these like felt gloves at Walgreens and put lotion on them. I'd wear, go to bed at night to try to get some more moisture back in my hands.
Yeah. So I know we talked a little bit about that. I mean, I don't know if it was frustrating, but maybe we look back at it now, and maybe we shouldn't even look at it as the funny thing is that, we'd be at some middle school, and somewhere in the deep, thick forest of Wisconsin, and we're getting ready to tip it up. And where Ryan's at 1, and so-and-so is at 2, and Will's at 3, and all of a sudden, ready, Warriors on 3, ready, Warriors, and hey, I got to run to the bathroom. We're getting ready to tip it up, and that was kind of, as we look back, that was a thing you needed to do was, hey, I got to go to the bathroom, and that was just kind of part of it.
I mean, I think that for me, like, it was a physiological response to anxiety. I mean, it was like a healthy anxiety. I mean, not all anxiety is bad. We know that, it can help you prepare you for a sporting event. And my body, when I feel anxious, I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I have to. So like you said, 30 seconds before tip off, I'm like, oh,
gotta go
quick.
And
again.
then we finally just thought, well, all right, Ryan, you better get going quick. we gotta go. So yeah. So so after high school, again, we talked about that stellar career. Going to college brought some new challenges for you. Kind of describe that for our listeners as well.
Yeah, like I said, from early on, I mean, I experienced that, in elementary school and middle, high school and beyond. And, I had, anxiety in general was very present for me. And I think I did a good job of masking that and, hiding it essentially. And I feel like, there's some people even to this day that if they were to ask me, they wouldn't know that I have anxiety, pretty significant anxiety. And I think the transition from high school to college was really challenging. Any transition brings about anxiety, any change. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, really exacerbated some of that underlying anxiety that I had and was masking, and it brought that about. And just trying to get used to the dorm life. I was obviously playing basketball, like you mentioned earlier, as a freshman, and trying to get used to a routine and the college classes and the pressure of wanting to perform well. And all of that, I think, coming together.
On top of the anxiety you already had.
Exactly. I think that really, brought that out more. I know I was telling you before, too, that, there's nights I can remember before basketball games, just the intrusive thoughts, anxiety spinning, and be up till 5 a.m, not being able to sleep, and just looking at the ceiling. And it was a really hard time for me, and just trying to figure out. I didn't have the words to, like, at the time, to name what was going on. Mm-hmm. And it just, all these things coming together, and it was a hard time. It was really hard to transition. And going back to, my parents were super helpful during that time. I remember calling my mom, at 5 a.m, I can't sleep, and, helping to talk through things and being there for me. So that was really wonderful to have them and their support, and being able to turn to them in those times.
Yeah. So hopefully we have some younger people here, or somebody can recommend this to, hey, college basketball player, you got to listen to the Survive and Thrive 87-91. They got this former basketball player, Division III guy, who talks about that. We talked about routine. What was? You had kind of a built-in routine with the sports stuff.
Yeah, and that piece, naturally actually really helped me. Having that routine. If I didn't have that, it would have been really, really challenging. The natural routine of, like, especially sports and basketball, like, keeping me on, getting up early, trying to go to bed at a decent time, and, getting up, working out. I think the working out piece is huge for me to this day. Mm-hmm. Reflecting back on that, how that impacts my mental health is something I need in my life, is moving my body and working out. So that's a huge stress relief. And I know obviously there's research on that.
Buck and Honeys has been with us since episode 1, and we've been darn glad for that. I've been darn glad for their support and friendship with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. Some people ask me, why Buck and Honeys? Well, they have a great menu, 5-star customer service, and I have to mention that Tom Anderson, who's the owner, places a high priority on the mental health of his employees by having a mental health professional on call for them. And there's nothing like, there's nothing for me like going to eat there, but knowing that he's got priority for his mental health of his employees is amazing. In segment 2, you are going to take us through what it was like for Ryan Kruser to live with OCD in college, and maybe didn't necessarily know it yet, but you knew something was up, and what it's like to have coping skills, and to be able to survive and thrive. So please stay tuned. Don't change that dial. You don't want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. So we will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know who is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help or resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365, and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Crisis services, dial 911. Suicide prevention lifeline, call 988. To connect via web chat, go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to utter 3 words: I need help. Now back to the show.
We are back. Welcome to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791, where we feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Segment 2 is called Life All Grown Up with OCD. And we didn't talk about that, about the segment name, but I think it's apropos.
Yeah.
After high school, Ryan Kruser left home, like a lot of young people do, to go to college, to go right into the workforce. Some people join the armed forces, or they just want to get out of their house and get out on their own. You had to learn to cope with something you always maybe kind of knew, but until recently, you were diagnosed with OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, hence the kind of the life of all grown up. Mm-hmm. So after college with new challenges, you already kind of talked us through what that was like. But for those that are listening and going through what Ryan did, can you describe some of those symptoms again? I know you talked about when you were in high school and younger, you were talking about the intrusive thoughts and the hand washing. Was there anything else that you had kind of going on?
I think it can kind of rotate. Like the thing about OCD too is the thoughts that you have, I mean, it's not always the same. You know, a big thing for me too, and this kind of feeds into some social anxiety as well too, but like when I'm in social interactions, after the fact, I can have some what if thoughts of, you know, what if I sounded a certain way or I said something I didn't want to mean, or came across a way that I didn't want. For me, I can get caught in this cycle of, you know, what if I offended somebody? You know, what if they took it the wrong way? You know, they're not going to like me. You know, for me, like that's something that comes up to this day, and something I'm working through, you know, and with a therapist, is when that stuff comes up is how to handle that. And the compulsion is, you know, and again, the compulsion is that behavior that you do to reduce the anxiety is me. It's seek reassurance from Lindsay. It could be, you know, somebody else that I'm talking to, or my parents, for example. That's something that when I was younger, I would often call and say, like, talk them through the situation. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, reassuring me. And that's something that is definitely comes up for me, you know, now. And like I said, I'm working through that. And the thing with OCD is reassurance seeking can almost reinforce some of the anxiety. Mm-hmm. That's something I've learned is it temporarily, like if I, you know, have a situation and I'm saying like, how would you take that to Lindsay? Like describing that situation to her. And she tells me, oh no, you know, that you didn't come across that way. That decreases my anxiety, but that's only temporary. It's not, you know, something more long-term that anxiety is going to come back. So
when you start to have those intrusive thoughts of, okay, let's say for like today, we finish the episode, finish the podcast, you go on your way, I go on my way, and then you start to think, I wonder if I sounded cool. I wonder if I sounded good. Yeah. How are you going to address that when you're in the car on the way home?
Yeah, I think, you know, through exposure therapy, it's been helpful, you know, trying to decrease that anxiety. So part of exposure is just sitting with that anxiety, mm-hmm. and allowing your body to, the longer you can sit with it, your body naturally will decrease that anxiety. I traditionally am a chronic like avoider. I'll just think about something else. And for me, it's just being intentional about not avoiding that feeling and just trying to sit with that, and decrease that anxiety over time. And it's really hard. To be honest with you, I'm probably going to have, this is going to come up for me after this podcast. And, but I want to be open about that for the listeners that like, that's something real for me. That's something that I deal with, and it's going to be there. And that's why I'm working with a therapist and have folks around me to try to work through that. And, I'm still learning about OCD. It can be confusing. I still have questions about it and like the treatment for it. And, I know a lot of times it can be counterproductive to say, well, just sit with the anxiety when, we learn coping strategies, obviously, to try to decrease that anxiety. But and for me, in that case, when it is an OCD intrusive thought, to be able to just sit with that anxiety is helpful, to not like reinforce that anxiety loop, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And to be able to understand, and we talked about this off air, that, hey, we all get anxiety. It's a natural, it goes back to the caveman, keep us alive, keep us looking for food, couple other things, but
survival mechanism,
survival, fight or flight. And you just kind of sit with it. It's a natural thing. Talk yourself through it. Ask some questions about your anxiety. Is this real? Is there some data to support that what's happening is true? And you're going to find, and we talked about this as well, that there's going to be an enormous amount of positive feedback by you being on this episode today. And just people are going to be thankful that you're sharing your story and realizing that somebody out there is not alone, that they're also with Ryan Kruser. So what were those first few weeks like once you started to get the help, that after you threw up the white flag, I'm done with this? To get some help.
It was, super helpful. The therapist I'm working with now is she's wonderful. Just being able to talk about it in an environment that is non-judgmental, and knowing that, like, obviously you need to trust the person and build that trust. And when you have that, it's huge to know that, you can be open and, without fear of judgment. I mean, for me, for the longest time, that was the biggest, like, I was worried about that judgment, and the freedom from that, and through my therapy, and it felt very genuine, and I felt heard, and I felt validated that, I was shaming myself for the longest time of like, you have this anxiety and these intrusive thoughts that it feels like a lot of times you can't control. And just to have somebody there that, validated me and told me I'm not alone. There's so many people I work with that go through things like this, and really helped to decrease some of those negative feelings about myself and what I was experiencing.
For the listeners out there, we mentioned that it's important to be able to tell somebody or ask for help, and then tell somebody, unload some of the stuff that's making you feel depressed, angry, anxious, whatever it happens to be, and find somebody. We also talked about, hey, everybody should have a therapist or a counselor. You can be out there as a listener and just offer up and just say, hey, tell me what's going on, and I'm also going to not tell anybody else, and be that trusting person in somebody else's life, and you can do a world of good. So you met your soon-to-be wife in college and going through the program, and then you two eventually got married February 9th, 2 years ago. See, I remember that. How did you manage that with her, as far as putting up that mask and that facade of, hey, everything's good? Because we all have that person that we fall in love with, or that buddy or that friend, and we want to keep things hidden. How did that come out? Or
I mean, I was scared. I mean, and that's, Lindsay, she is an extremely genuine, real, person, and we have a very genuine, real connection. And I feel very comfortable with her to be able to be open. I mean, it took me a little bit to kind of share some of the things that I was going through. And I think the people that know Lindsay, and I think she's, very, very genuine, and, very non-judgmental. And that just speaks to who she is as a person, and, why, I love her so much. And I feel like I can be open with her. And that's, I mean, obviously it's always a work in progress relationships. But that's been huge. And, she really helped me too, and pushed me to open up. Like, she's very in tune. She as she got to know me more, she could kind of push into like seeing that I was masking a little bit, and just trying to push me to open up for myself, honestly, was that was the key piece too, is she wants me to be better for myself. And I think that's huge.
Yeah. We talked about, I just said it. Everybody needs to have a therapist or counselor.
Yeah.
You married one.
Yeah.
and or you became one yourself. So yeah.
We're very intentional about not getting into that therapy mindset with each other. I mean, it's helpful, obviously, therapy components, like obviously communication but we really try not to get into that mindset with each other, obviously.
Keep work out of it.
Yeah, keep work out of it.
Well, I know you and I don't need the Kleenex, but maybe she needs to grab some now as she's listening to this. So that's good stuff, man. Now that you've started to understand your OCD, you've relied on some coping skills, strategies, tools for your OCD toolkit. If anyone is feeling like what you've mentioned, or has a family member, loved one, coworker, etc., going through this stuff, OCD right now, I suggest you grab your notebooks, take your notebooks out. These were the 5 suggestions that Ryan sent me as part of his bio. For those of you that might need help, or somebody that does, then you can survive and thrive like him. So we got about 10 minutes. So maybe if we can kind of chunk it out in about two minute segments. Yeah. So there are 5 things, and I'm gonna toss them to you underhand softball. So first thing you said was push back on the negative stigma and narrative around mental health. Go ahead and hit that for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think, more broadly speaking, there is this negative mental health stigma, just around mental health in general, and people. I think that environment creates people to try to like isolating. I'm going to hold that thing in, and in my job, social media is like a huge component of that, and I think. Social media has some really positive things. It also has some very negative things. And one of those things that I see on a daily basis is, a lot of people only post their highlights, right? Mm-hmm. And that kind of can feed into that narrative. That's only one thing, but it's just trying to push back that it's okay to not be okay. And I know that's cliche, but that's something that's very real. And I think, we need to push back collectively as people on that. If you are struggling, let's talk about it, and creating that space and environments that it's okay to. We're not gonna shame you. We're not gonna, make you feel some type of way because you're having these negative feelings. And, I think you look at the statistics of like suicide rate and things like that too, and it's pretty astounding. So I think, like I said, from a more broad perspective, just doing what you can to push back on that and raising awareness for mental health, and just trying to support each other as best as we can.
Yeah, I think I saw Kobe Bryant's trainer one time said, yes, and once in a while you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and sometimes it's true. Your second item, you said, I want people to know that you're not alone, and then you've already alluded to that with some of the kids you've been working with.
We all go through hard things in our life, and it's inevitable. There's going to be pain. I just want people to know that whatever you're going through, you're not alone in that, and the experiences might be different, but I think what brings us all together is pain, and we all experience pain. And I think that just knowing that and being there for each other and trying to support, and you're not alone in those feelings. And I think when you feel more isolated, that's when there becomes, more challenges, and we see, the ramifications of like with depression, anxiety, that increases when you're feeling alone and isolated. So just wanting people to know, and that's why I wanted to share my story too with OCD. And, if there's people out there that, are noticing similar thought patterns, that, I feel you. Yep. Yeah, I feel you on that.
I feel you. Well, yeah, I always say too that, we slam our fingers in the car door, and we're going to go to the emergency room and take care of that.
Exactly.
If we're feeling not right up in the head, why don't we take care of that and call somebody or talk to somebody about it? And that's good stuff. Yeah. So encourage people to talk to a trusted person in their life about their challenges. And again, we already hit on this.
Yeah,
but it's a good
you did a great job, Tim, of talking about that. And it's got to be a trusted person that you feel like you fully 100% trust. Like you said, Tim, I think you got to find somebody in your life. I think that's super important to have that person that you, whether it's a therapist or if not, somebody else that you really trust to process through, some of those thoughts, negative thoughts and feelings, I think can be very, very powerful. Again, going back to just so you're not feeling alone and keeping all of that in, that's huge.
For our listeners, talk to somebody if you've got this stuff going on, unload some of your anxiety. And also, be that person of take somebody else's stuff on and help them deal with it. You might not be able to fix them, but what might be fixing them is just listening to them and then trusting that you're not going to take that to the book club and broadcast that around or wherever. Number 4, when you're ready to take the jump and seek out professional help, I suppose do so. Yeah, and you did that.
Just from my experience, therapy has been huge for me, especially in the past 6 months. I know, like you said, Tim, I've gotten a diagnosis of OCD, and that's actually been really, really helpful to get more clarity on. It allows me to name and gives me some language to kind of speak to my experiences, and that I didn't have that for a long time. And just learning more about it has been awesome. And I just, you alluded this too. Not everybody necessarily needs a therapist, but everybody can benefit from one. Mm-hmm. And I really encourage, like, even if you feel like you don't need it, you're going to learn something about yourself through that process. It's going to make you a better human for yourself, but also how you show up in relationships, work. So I think everybody should try it at least once.
Yeah, give it a shot, or worst case scenario, talk to a parent or sibling. They're usually pretty good about having that trusting kind of thing, and they might be able to help you. And then you tied in with the part 5 here. You tied in a quote, and I'm going to have you kind of talk about that a little bit. It says, you said my wife, who also works in the mental health field, very affectionately will say, it's hard to struggle with mental health silently and alone. It's also hard to seek help and address your challenges head on. So choose the hard thing. And I've also heard something similar. Sometimes you gotta do the hardest thing. Is don't always do the easiest thing. And I think in this case, it would be just be to suppress those feelings and not get rid of them and hold them in, and I'll just address it later. But sometimes I got to do the hard thing, and you kind of had to maybe do that and ask for that help. So go ahead.
I mean, for me, I chose the first part of that for a long time, most of my life, actually, until, I started seeking out therapy I would talk to people about it, but not like on the deeper level that would be really helpful. It was, I got to a point where it was just like, I'm just feeling super crappy all the time, and that's hard. And I was also scared of seeking out therapy and help, and that was going to be hard too. And making the decision to why not give it a shot. And I'm already feeling crappy. It's going to be hard to go. I'm going to feel anxiety. I'm going to wonder what it is going to be like. How is this going to go? And, I made that decision, and it's been, like I said, I know I said before, it's been truly life-changing to have that person to go to and getting that support from. And also, I have a lot of individuals in my life too that I can speak to outside of therapy as well too, that having that trust, and it's huge. So for myself, obviously, to just continue to push into that.
What an episode. Your story will definitely help people. Your strength to share with me when we met for coffee a couple of weeks ago, I thought was huge. And your strength to share with the Survive and Thrive 8791 gang is an inspiration. And now you're helping other students with their struggles. So our call to action this week is Ryan Kruser just shared an experience that our listeners can learn from. These 5 things can help you survive and thrive, just like Ryan did through his OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder diagnosis. Those 5 things were push back on the negative stigma and narrative around mental health. He wanted to let people know that you're not alone. Encourage people to talk to a trusted person in their life about their challenges. And then at some point when you're ready, jump in and seek out some professional help, because he and I have already told you that it leads to a much better life. And then that quote that his wife affectionately says, she's in the mental health field as well, as it's hard to struggle with mental health silently and alone. It's also hard to seek help and address your challenges head on. And he did that, and he chose the hard one and came out. So as we close another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, any final thoughts?
I just want to say thanks to you for doing what you're doing. I think it's huge. I know we talked like the stigma I talked about, but just raising awareness, and especially as males, I know I talked about that before too, that it's easy to push things down, especially as a male. And I think just raising awareness and allowing folks to tell their story too is huge, and giving them that opportunity through that healing process, I think, is awesome. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you for doing what you're doing. And I really admire that.
I appreciate that. And like we like I said, and we talked about this, there's going to be nothing but phenomenal feedback, and people are going to say, we didn't know, because usually they didn't know because they were probably going through something on their own end. But at the same time, you're going to get a lot of pats on the back for telling your story and being upfront and really being now either a mentor or a role model for doing what's best for you and your relationship and your marriage and your work as a counselor of kind of practicing doing what you're preaching. Get help, ask for help. Anyway, awesome. On our next episode, we will have another amazing guest who will share how they survived and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through. With hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care, everybody. We'll see you.